Hey, what's going on YouTube? It's Pyromancer here, and I, I'm not coming at you with a super crazy theory today, but there will be some spoilers, I guess, to an extent. If you haven't listened to the kind of audiobook kind of segments for 1,000 Years of War regarding Illyria and Turalyon, I'm going to be talking about that today. And Novel already did a video on this, so I'm not trying to like copy him. I actually haven't even seen that video. So in case I say something that's relatively similar to him, I just want everyone to know up front that I actually haven't even seen that. So I actually literally just finished, I literally still have it open, the final audiobook here. I actually had them in my watch later list for, I guess it's not really an audiobook, but 1,000 Years War. And essentially, I'll give you a really, really quick rundown of what happens. So it essentially starts with Illyria and Turalyon way back on Draenor. And it kind of starts out a little slow, where it's kind of a Draenor which they don't know. Essentially, skipping most of the details, most of the kind of the storytelling at the start, they end up being united with Lothraxion and Xera. Essentially what happens, or what goes on, is Lothraxion meets with them. They've never met him before. He's a demon covered in the light. It's very strange for them. And he explains to them that, you know, I was a member of the Legion, blah, blah, blah. I was accepted by the light, you know, talks to them and explains kind of how it all went. And they're actually met by the shadow assassin that can kind of shift in and out of the nether and back into the regular world. And so that's a key kind of important thing. It can pretty much turn completely invisible because it's able to kind of shift through realms. It's something that was created through countless kind of trial and error type of things with the Legion. It's just a superior type of assassin which they created. One minor detail to note with that demon is that it promised that it was going to kill Illyria Windrunner's son, Eretor. That's important to remember. So essentially, I know I'm going to say essentially a lot. It's like my repeat word. And I'm so excited about this. Like, this story is fucking awesome. And it actually tells us so much about the Warcraft universe that we didn't really understand before. And I'm going to lead that into some of the things we've been talking about the next couple days. So you're going to want to listen to this if you want to have a better comprehension of the void and the light. So basically, they end up going through a rift of light drawn by Lothraxion. They go through, and that's after they deal with the assassin. They go through and they meet Xera. And Xera introduces herself as this conduit of light, basically the mother of light, the prime Naru, and offers to Turalyon the opportunity to become light forged. And so she creates this gigantic column of light, and him and Illyria both step into it. And Turalyon releases himself and allows the light to flow through him, and he starts seeing these visions and all of these things, and lets the light flow through him and becomes light forged. Now Illyria at the same time is kind of experiencing something similar, but not to the intensity. She's not really becoming light forged. She more so is just seeing peace in her mind that Eretor is okay. She can see back to Azeroth and that everything is fine with him. This is what the light is showing her, and it is true. After this, basically, Turalyon swears allegiance to the light, and he will forever serve in the army of the light, and they join Lothraxion, him and Illyria, and eventually end up seeing, they talk about the Emerald Star. Now, the Emerald Star, as a lot of you will know by now, is Argus, and specifically the Emerald Star is Argus the Unmaker, the Titan soul within Argus that is being tortured by Sargeras and used as a conduit as an kind of an infinite army, the infinite power source for the Burning Legion. Now, with demons in the Nether, if you kill a demon outside of the Nether, its soul will return to the Nether. It will be tortured and basically reborn through the power of Argus. Now, that's actually why Sargeras made allegiances with Kil'jaeden and Archimonde initially and tried to trick Velen, but Velen was too engrossed with the power of the light. He saw through that and did not follow them. So that's why Velen's good. That's why KJ and Archimonde are bad. But that's why Sargeras wanted Argus because he knew that the Titan soul was in there. He's a Titan. He can sense that. That's something that they've always been able to do. Now, moving forward, eventually Illyria and Turalyon venture to Argus, but it's very important that we point out the fact that Xera could not see what would happen to Illyria and Turalyon once they ventured to Argus. She just knew that they wouldn't die, but she couldn't see how, and she couldn't see by what means it was that they escaped. Now, Illyria, at this point, had kind of already been tampering with the Void a little bit, and they end up searching. They find that there is sentient life out there on Argus besides the Burning Legion, and the Emerald Star, that is Argus, the Unmaker, calls out to them. And the Emerald Star shows Illyria what has happened in the thousands of planets that have burned at the hand of the Legion, and what Argus has been put through, what Argus is meant to do in the eyes of the Burning Legion, and what Sargeras has tormented and forced Argus to do, and that is torturing and rebuilding and rebearing the Burning Legion, all of them. And just keep in mind, the whole time that she's seeing all of this, Turalyon isn't seeing any of it. So that's when she kind of starts to wonder, okay, what is going on here? Now, when they go to leave, because they realize that it's disturbed Argus, these lights, the two children of the light from Azeroth, when they go to leave, they're found that the basically the pod that they used to come down to Argus from the Zenadar had been swarmed by the Legion. So they tried to fight the Legion, and it's just two of them. They could not bear through it, and because of that, Illyria had no choice but to open up a rift through the Void and pull Turalyon through. Now, one thing that we know is that the Void and the Light cannot exist together. So Illyria, of course, is worried that doing this may have killed him, but as she pulls him through, she can feel the pulse in his neck. She knows that he is not dead. And so when she pulls through, Turalyon is horrified. He doesn't know what to say to her, and she basically says, you know, I know that this is not what you wanted. You know, this isn't what we had planned, but I have a different destiny of my own, and I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that our son lives. So she disappears through a new Void portal that she rips, and Turalyon, since he is no longer on Argus and being shrouded, Xera is able to find them, and Turalyon is eventually transported back to the Zenadar. Now, one important thing to note in this all happens over a ton of time. I mean, we're talking like hundreds and hundreds of years, because the way that time works in the Twisting Nether, where they are, is different than in the realms of Azeroth, for example. So while all of this 40 years has passed, at a certain point, if we take a step back, only 40 years had passed. Only 3 years had passed on Earth, and that's how Illyria had known that her son Eretor was okay. Now, moving forward, Illyria disappears, and she allows herself to become captured by the Legion, because she knows that that's what she has to do in order to find Locust Walker. And the only reason that she even knows anything about Locust Walker is actually because Lothraxion told her about him. Lothraxion actually kind of gave a little bit of a description on the Void previously, and she kind of had started to ask him a little bit more about this character, about this individual, after he told her that there was one individual that he saw not completely overridden and completely taken over by the Void, and that was Locust Walker. Now, this is kind of where Locust Walker is initially introduced. A lot of people don't really know that much about Locust Walker, except the fact that he's an ethereal. In ethereals, their homeworld was actually destroyed by a Void Lord. So whether or not Locust Walker is evil, he actually probably despises the Void and hates it, and it's probably what he uses to control it, because he knows that if he succumbs to it, that it will ruin him, as it did the planet that the ethereals originally came from. Now, the ethereals didn't used to look like the masses of energy that they do now. They actually have a very strange kind of shapeless form when they're not within their bindings. So that's just a minor point to put out. So do I think he's evil? No. So while they're imprisoned for these hundreds of years, Turalyon has been fighting alongside the Army of the Light to try to kill the demons. Now, a lot of people would say, well, why have they just been having these small skirmishes with the demons in order to kill them? Well, you have to remember, they're in the Twisting Nether, so when they kill them, they cannot be reborn through the power of Argus. Now, while this is happening, Illyria makes a bargain with Locust Walker while she's imprisoned. And the bargain essentially is, from what I understand it, that Illyria has to break them free, but at the same time, you have Illyria actually wanting to learn more about the Void from Locust Walker. So her actually breaking him out is a win-win for her overall. Upon learning the ways of the Void, she has to follow what Locust Walker says. And we see hints to this that they had known each other before when we see this encounter happen in patch 7.3 on Argus in the current game. Well, she escapes essentially by tricking one of the observers, or kind of, I don't exactly remember what they're called, but you know, the creepy guys that summon the little eyes of Gul'dan that float around, like the seers, the observers, whatever you want to call them. And she breaks them all out, and with a void portal, Locust Walker pulls them out. They get out of there. He goes back so that he can heal, and they are no longer imprisoned by the Legion. They escape. Now, at the same time, again, Turalyon is facing the Legion. Him and Lothraxion go back to the Zenidar, and that is pretty much where they remain. There's not really too much to say going on with, I stuttered really bad right there, going on with Turalyon that's super noteworthy, to be honest with you. The whole time he's pretty much thought Illyria is gone, she'll never come back. He's gone through his mourning process. And Lothraxion comes to him in his sleep and says, I found her body. You gotta come with me. So Turalyon goes with Lothraxion to the bottom of the Zenidar, and there is a body down there. But when Turalyon approaches it, it turns out that it is not a body at all. And the demon which Illyria had previously killed back on Draenor has come back and was taking the shape of Lothraxion. Well, it was actually Lothraxion that was on the ground, as he had been poisoned by the assassin. So Lothraxion can't do anything. As Turalyon goes to turn around, as Lothraxion faintly whispers to him, behind you, he is essentially stabbed with the poison from the assassin, and the assassin, which has soul stones, because he said that he was going to capture the souls of Turalyon and Illyria and wear them around his neck. He basically says, I'm going to capture you in the soul stone and you're fucked, and I'm also going to get Illyria. And by the way, she's alive, just so you know, probably to upset Turalyon. But Turalyon can't do anything. Well, Illyria, in her training with Locust Walker, and this is where things get interesting, Locust Walker tells Illyria she has to open her mind to the Void, but she has to remain in control because the Whispers will try to drive her mad. Now, he also says to her, what you're seeing are half-truths. The Void sees many different things, and it can see many different possibilities. And she also finds out that the light generally only sees one path and believes it as absolute destiny. The light is not as open to alternate paths as the Void is. However, as it's going on, Illyria kind of starts to see the difference between the Void's memories, the Void's desires, and the Void's plans. So a lot of what we've been seeing, technically, spewed out by the Void, or the Old Gods, doesn't necessarily mean that that's what's actually going to happen. The light fears the Void, and the Void fears the light. That's why they clash, and that's why the light and the shadow cannot exist within one another, within the same entity. Or can they? We'll get to that. And a lot of people have speculated on that already, so it's probably some of you aren't going to be surprised. Well, Illyria, through the visions of the Void, can see that Turalyon is going to die. She, through all of these visions that she has, and there's countless, the description is incredible. If you guys have not listened to these kind of little short audiobooks, then you have to. They're pretty amazing. We find that Illyria is able to reach through the Void to see certain things. Now, she also calls out to the light as well while she's within the Void and can see certain other things. So what we're seeing here is that the Void sees many, many different paths. However, there's no 100% truth in any of them. Any of them could be a possibility, but there's no set destiny, whereas the light will see one destiny and only that destiny. That's why Xera tries to force upon Illidan absorbing the power of the light. I personally think Illidan declines this, obviously, because he is so much about his own destiny, and he's already stepped into the realm of the shadow before. He's already sort of familiar with that, so he doesn't trust the light, and it's for good reason. That brings me to the question, is Xera evil? No. I don't think Xera is. I think she's just a conduit of light as she is the Prime Naru, and thus does not understand the other way that the void is able to see. So Illyria has the capability to see not only through the light to an extent, but also through the void, and use them in conjunction to see things that other individuals cannot see. This begs the question, how much of our destiny as the champions in World of Warcraft or the other champions in WoW was actually set in stone the way that it was depicted? How often is the light actually correct in the outcome? Now, part of the reason that Xera could not see what happened or what was going to happen to Illyria and to Turalyon is because she can't see into the void. So there was no way that she could have known that they were going to escape through a void portal. She probably knew that they were going to have a lot of trouble there, but she couldn't see where they went or how they escaped. Well, Illyria, now with this newfound power of the void, tells the Locust Walker, I have to go because Turalyon he's going to die. And Locust Walker said, but yes, what you're seeing is half truths. Well, she said, no, I saw this through the light. And so he says, interesting. And through the void, they're able to pull the soul stone in order that one of the soul stones that the assassin had. So now they're in possession of this soul stone. Well, Locust Walker says, you know what, fine, go. Save him. And she says, well, I don't know where the Xenadar is. How am I supposed to get there? And he says, well, yes, you do. You hold the key to its location in your hand because the soul stones are linked together. So she uses the location of the soul stone to basically teleport inside the Xenadar. And if you don't know, after a battle on Argus, Turalyon and Lothraxion and the other members of the Army of the Light retreated back to the ship. When they were going to close the door, for some reason it wouldn't close and something had snuck in. That was the assassin. But the light couldn't see it because I believe it was shrouded in the void, or it had shifted into a realm of the nether to become undetectable because the light can't really see through that. So she shifts into the Xenadar and basically shoots this fucking spike of smoky void through this demon that is standing over Turalyon and Lothraxion. And as the demon is kind of writhing on the floor with this thing in its chest, she goes to Lothraxion, who has the poison, and pulls it out of Lothraxion's skin. Literally forcibly pulls out the poison, which kind of shows the void's ability to heal. So is the void really all that bad, or is the void just a byproduct of what happened at the very beginning of all life in the universe that Azeroth exists? And now it's kind of strange because this is where we kind of see some more blindness of the light. Because after saving Lothraxion and Turalyon, she chases after that demon, which really didn't make it far. They're kind of shifting between the realms, and she catches him and fucking destroys him. The description is incredible, and like I said, the voiceover is magnificently done. Very, very well done. So I really suggest you go and check it out. I'll have a link to the part 1 in the description, and it goes to part 2 and 3 after that. Well, Turalyon comes up and he's kind of horrified at what he's seeing, understandably so, as a light-forged member of the Army of the Light. And he doesn't understand. He doesn't accept the void, of course, because that's what the light is taught. There is no other way. It is the destiny of the light, and that is all that shall be. Now, while the light may have good intentions, it cannot see all, which again is why certain things have happened where the light, why didn't the light show us this? How could we not see this? Well, it's because the light only knows its own foretold destiny. It can't see the other possibilities. Well, Xera clutches onto Illyria and essentially says, you must swear allegiance and rescindance to the light, and you cannot harness the power of the void anymore. And Illyria says, I will fight alongside the army of the light when the hour draws nigh and it is time for the Burning Legion to meet their ultimate fate. And Xera says, no, if you're not going to do that, then I will imprison you here within the Xenadar, and you can think about what you did until we decide to let you out. Well, I assume that how Illyria and Turalyon, when we appear on Argus with our ship, when the other Xenadar appears, likely because they were able to sense our presence, perhaps through Velen, who knows, they appear, they crash. I assume that point is at which Illyria actually escaped. Now that's kind of how the story ends, was with her imprisonment beginning, but it really does beg the question, how much do we actually even know about the world, about everything that has happened? Because everything that we have really seen in the past has always been through the eyes of the light. And only now are we getting to the point where we have characters that are truly understanding the perspectives that they're allowed to see through the void. That also goes for the old gods. It also goes for the titans. There are all of these things that the servants of the light and of the void have said and have seen and have done, but how much of it was really actually set upon a destiny, so to speak. So with Turalyon being of light and Illyria being of void, there's a speculation going around their son Erator being the child of light and shadow, who could ultimately lead us to victory against the old gods, as he's able to peer both into the destiny of the light and into the half-truths of the shadow. See, both sides cannot exist without one another, and thus have to coexist together in order to see what is actually true. Which I find this absolutely fascinating. And I think that the craziest thing about it is you can't predict shit in World of Warcraft. None of our speculations, no predictions, literally none of it matters at all, because in the world that is World of Warcraft, in that universe, there is no reliable way to predict what will happen without having both vision through the light and through the void. So I just find myself a little bit dumbfounded. And I know that this is all over a video game, but like, who the fuck thinks of this shit? Who came up with this? Like, it literally is crazy that so much story has been built through the vision of the visions of the light, and in some characters the visions through the void, but it's never really come together as one before. And I'm so excited to see what happens, because there's no way to predict what is going to happen after this. Sure, we might go and fight the Pantheon and chain Sargeras to the Pantheon, and all hope seemingly is lost that now that the old gods will be released, maybe we see an appearance from Xera, from N'Zoth, from a Void Lord itself, but without actually knowing through the eyes of someone who's able to see through the light and the shadow, we have absolutely no way of predicting anything. Now, don't let that sway you into thinking that I won't continue to put out speculation videos, because they're very fun to do, and you guys are loving them, and I love that you're loving them. You guys, honestly, there's been some people that have commented on the videos that are straight up the biggest jerks I've ever seen. There's people that literally comment some of the most racist and crazy things I've ever seen, and I don't know why. I never experienced this with just warlocks, with just warlock content in the past, but I guess lore hits such a wider expansion of people. Now, I do understand that there are some things that I've said in the last couple of videos that were simply wrong, flat out wrong. And some people get very, very defensive and aggravated at that, and I urge you to just chill out, because it is, after all, it is just about a game. As much as exciting as the game is, you don't have to take it so serious that you feel like you need to assault me in the comments. I'm literally just going to block you from commenting on my videos, and that'll be it. I mean, you're basically just wasting your time, because I do read the comments, and I'm just going to ban you. So, away from that, what do I think will happen with Illyria going into the future? As I speculated before in my Illyria video, which didn't really get that many views because honestly it wasn't that good, I thought Turalyon would be just super upset about this once he found out, but I didn't understand, because I hadn't listened to this stuff, that Turalyon already knew. This has been something that's been happening for a while, and the Locust Walker, I think, is well-intentioned. I think he probably has a hatred for the Void, and so alongside him, we will use Illyria and Turalyon, Light and Shadow, to fight back against the Legion, and I think that they'll play very crucial parts within Antorus the Burning Throne, as we've kind of seen through some of the dialogue. After that, though, when we return to Azeroth, what should happen? Well, it's very hard to say, because Illyria does say in this that she will eventually go mad. But is that only something that has happened because others have not truly been able to harness the power of the light and the void at the same time? Is madness only something that you succumb to through continuous allegiance to the void powers? Or if you're able to harness the light at the same time, would you be able to escape that fate? Well, Illyria does believe that eventually she will go mad, as Locust Walker kind of hints towards as well. Kind of says. And I kind of wonder was Illyria dabbling enough in shadow powers with the birth of Eretor for us to consider him the child of light and shadow? Does he actually possess some of the same power, I guess, or potential for power as Illyria does? Now, one of the things about the light that we've seen is that the light can be taught. We see that with Lothraxion. Very clearly, he was a member of the Burning Legion before and went on crusades, genocide, murderous campaigns that the Void did unspeakable things during. But he was forgiven by the light. And so should it be assumed that the same thing would happen for one with the Void? Just because you were engrossed in the power of the Void, does that mean that you will eventually eternally go mad, or will you be presented the opportunity by blocking out the whispers when you don't need to hear them to come back from the Void? Is this something that we're going to be able to harness moving forward? And honestly, with fighting the old gods, which inevitably is going to happen, it has to be. I think going back to Azeroth, and I think the Crucible, the Netherlight Crucible, has kind of already introduced us to that idea with powers of the Void and powers of the Light. I think that it's unquestionable. I think that we may actually see in the next expansion maybe even different subclasses based on some of the new powers that we're starting to explore. Illyria is a hunter that is able to harness the power of the Void. She's also a blood elf. Now, one thing that's important to note is that Illyria swears that by under no circumstances, whether it be influenced by the Void or the Light, would she ever harm her son Eretor. And this is the moment when the Locust Walker and Illyria realize that there are some things that even with the curse of flesh afflicting all known humanoid life on Azeroth, the Void and the maddening whispers cannot corrupt. And that is the pure, unconditional love that Illyria has for her son Eretor. So there are certain things that cannot be destroyed by the Void, period. So this is absolutely insane. Basically, this video had a couple little spoilers in it, like I said, just because I did kind of tie this to some of the things that are happening. But I was blown away listening to this. If you guys haven't listened to this and you like the lore, you've got to listen to this shit. This is crazy. And Noble's summary video is great. Mine is way longer than his. It's only like 18 minutes. But I kind of have discussed a little bit more about what I feel about it, how I personally enjoy it. And I really hope that you guys are as excited as I am about this, because there is no way, no matter how smart you are, no matter how much you think you know about the lore, how much do you really know? Because a lot of what we've seen has been through the eyes of characters portrayed in the light, and some through characters portrayed in the void. And there is absolutely no way to predict what could possibly happen moving forward. Sure, you can make large storyline assumptions like the old gods will likely return. Sargeras probably throws his sword or stabs a hole in Silithus, and that's how that happened. That's clear. We all know that. Ashara might come back, or the N'Zoth is probably going to come. These are all things that the Void has seen to be true, or the Light has seen to be true. However, we have not been able to peer through the eyes of both until now. So with that, I'm going to end the video before we get to 30 minutes. This is way longer than I thought it was going to be. So I hope you guys did enjoy this video. I do appreciate you guys very much for coming and checking this out. And I hope that you did enjoy it. If you did, make sure you click that like button and slam that subscribe button to get subscribed to my content. Turn on notifications if you want to know when a new video comes out. And until next time, drop that comment. Those comments. You guys comment so much and I love reading them. You guys are awesome. Make sure you follow me on Twitter and on Twitch. I've been trying to stream lately, but we've been having some problems with the internet, so I apologize for that, for my recurring stream viewers and my subs especially. I hate wasting your guys' money, so I'm so sorry. But check that stuff out, you guys. I love you guys very much. I don't say that very often, but I mean that. You guys are awesome. And you guys, especially since I started doing lore videos, we've gained 2,000 subscribers in a week. That's 10% increase that I started 2.5 years ago. I've got 10% of my subscribers, well, a little under 10% now that it's 22%, or 22,000, in less than a week. You guys that are coming from the lore community are awesome, and I cannot wait to share more with you guys. And for the Warlocks, if you made it to the end of this video, which I very much doubt, but if you did, leave a comment, prove me wrong, as a lot of people in the lore community like to do, and that's fine. I like learning about it. the Warlock stuff will continue. I'm going to talk about tier sets probably, I don't know, maybe tomorrow. We might put it out tonight just so I can show you guys a little bit of love. But now that I've rambled for another 2 minutes, until next time, I'll see you guys. Peace!